Hello and welcome to another edition of the Comedy Slab, or if it's your first edition, very quickly, the formula is we put a comedy on the slab. I am Adrian Lacey, I'm in the southeast of England. His nibs is in the Midlands, that's Shane O'Connor, and we essentially review the show. We are notionally dissecting it, and we will get to it very shortly. It's this time round Clare In The Community, which is a long-running series, is into its 12th and final series on BBC Radio 4 as we speak, available on the BBC Sounds app, certainly in the UK, and probably available to stream via bbc.com with a bit of luck throughout the world. But whilst we review comedies, sometimes we ourselves get reviewed, don't we, Shane? And I'm reminded of the biblical phrase, those who live by the sword die by the sword. It's
lovely. I'm welling up just thinking about it now. We had a comment on our YouTube channel, which was, this goes way, it was only last week, but this goes way back to episode 4 of the Comedy Slab podcast. So the person is obviously working their way through all of the episodes of the show, which is lovely to know as well. That's just
flattering,
isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, look, I get all emotional when I say, but they're just simply ASMR, I think they're called on YouTube. Isn't that whispery thing where they?
I think it is, yes.
Which are just.
I tell you what, though, that's meant to relax you. I just find it turns me on when it's a sexy young woman whispering in me.
And if it's a bloke with a beard, not so much, or
yeah. I'd subscribe to your channel just to fall.
I'm just teaching my son to whisper actually at the moment, and his favourite thing to go, puts his finger up to his lips and goes, shh, which is great. I just send him. I said,
yeah, but you never take note.
Go find mummy and tell her. But yeah, anyway, so they put the laughing, crying emoji and put hysterical listening to you two, which I just thought was really nice. What a lovely thing to say. And
we're flattered.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for that. So if we can be of any service, this is episode 65, 4. So you've got tons to go at and have a look at and enjoy as well. In all seriousness, I think they were actually being not so kind when I read on.
Oh, no way!
Yeah,
no
actually,
way.
when I look at it, yeah.
Well, don't read on.
I think that's the best thing. Should we just hold it there? I tell you what it does though. It raises an interesting point, and because I thought about this when I read it, and I thought what's quite interesting is how binary we are in this country now. It's very polar, isn't it? Everything, and it never fails to surprise me. This because for example, I'm not a big fan of Strictly Come Dancing or what's the ITV one, Dancing on Ice or any of those kind of programs. Right. But I do respect the right for people to if they want to like them. I wouldn't call for a law banning them kind of thing, but I do think there is this kind of sort of polarity now, don't you think? Where it's almost like you kind of think, well, I like so and so how dare you are not allowed to criticise it because I like it. And it's what I would call the Brexit mentality. It's that kind of, it's like we failed the sensible conversation about things has broken down now. And I have to say, in our defence, I think we've said this before. We've never just slagged the programme off. We've both of us have kind of said, one for us, but I'm sure it is for some people, and we've managed to find high spots in most of the stuff we reviewed as well. It's never been gratuitously barbaric reviewing, has it? Which, but I do. Do you get that sense? It's like kind of like, I like it, so everybody must like it. And you think, well, life don't work like that, does it?
No. What worries me more is just how quickly people are reaching for rage generally. But that's obviously, that's part of it, what you're talking about. And actually, it's not the only slightly less than positive remark we've had about that particular edition. But then, having said that, it's one of the highest download counts of any show we've done. So you get more criticism, you get more praise. That's the way
I do think it is a male-female thing, though, as well. I think it's because we're two men discussing two women doing it. I think a lot of women get on their high horse, or a lot of men who like to think they're feminists get on their high horse. I know you like to think you're a feminist, but you've only got a small pony, so it's quite bearable.
And a trap.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean, though? And I do kind of think that is why that one kind of, how dare men? Oh, men don't know men this and men. You think, no, try. We're all humans. Try that one from a standpoint and see where you come from. Don't judge people, because actually judging people who are men because they're men is actually sexist. You fool. I'm just crossing them all off then, all the ones I couldn't say. But do you know what I mean?
Can't do that.
Like, that is exactly what you're arguing against, if you think about it.
But also, there was another paradox, which was that, if I could get my head around it, a previous comment was that you two have completely misunderstood the show, which is similar to what this other person was saying. And I didn't bother texting back. I didn't want to give them the oxygen of publicity, but they've misunderstood our show, which is it's a personal view.
Yeah.
And if we haven't made that clear every show, we'll make it clear in this edition. What we're saying is it's a snapshot of how we feel about a show in a certain week of our lives. We're not commanding you to have the same view.
As all criticism and critique,
we can't even agree amongst ourselves.
It's got to be personal. I can't speak for you. You can't speak for me. You're right, and that's the other thing, isn't it? And this is why I say it's a bit like Brexit. Is that you hear the arguments? Oh, if you voted to leave the EU, then you must be a racist. Well, actually, there are probably other paths that you could go down and reasons why people voted to leave the EU. In the same way that you say, well, if you voted to stay in the EU, then you must be some kind of mad federalist or whatever. So, it's why I say binary. I think that's the best description. It's either on or it's off. It's like a switch with people, and they see it in only monochrome. It's either black or white. That's it, and there's no grey areas in between. I find it a bit fascinating and scary in equal measure.
I find it scary. The people so angry with something so trivial very often that they're at large in our society, and they'll be next to you in the queue for the bus or wherever.
But if they were, they wouldn't even look in your direction. This is keyboard warrioritis, isn't it? That's the problem. Is with that, I think. Yeah,
that's true.
But, anyway, do you know what? And I really do mean this. I think it's lovely to have some kind of feedback, even if you can look at it and go, I think you're actually barking up the wrong tree there, sausage. Then it's still interesting to see who's out there and has got access to electric. So thanks ever so much for that. It's really nice of you.
And as any politician will tell you, there's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about. So
is that Oscar Wilde?
Thank you for talking about us. It sounds like him, doesn't it? Yeah. Wilde, he was livid.
He was mad, wild, butch, bonking Oscar.
He used to stare and scream from the gutter.
Yeah.
But he was looking at the stars, he said, so that's all right then. Talking of stars, see what I did there? We have the wonderful Sally Phillips starring as Clare in The Community. I think it's got a wonderful backstory to how this got to air. Have I got 30 seconds to try and tell it in miniature?
It's quite interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've dipped into this show more times than I care to remember, and all the time I had no idea of this backstory. So I think a lot of people would be fascinated by it.
Well, I know that Shane is an avid reader of The Guardian, in which case he'll be familiar with the fact that this, I think he still is, isn't it? Certainly, I think it's ongoing. It was a cartoon in The Guardian. I think it continues to
I won't have anything else in the house other than The Guardian because it's so strong and absorbent. I'll
absorb that insult as a good Guardian reader. Anyway, the cartoonist is a co-writer of this show, Harry Venner. But when it was a woman who herself is a social worker, Clare is a social worker, the Clare of the title, played by Sally Phillips, as I say. She was reading The Guardian, no huge surprise there, a social worker reading The Guardian, but saw this cartoon. Her son, I think I'm right in saying, was a BBC radio producer, and she pointed it out to him, and he thought, that would make a good show. Harry Venner, bless him, thought, as I might have thought, that he was going to get sidelined. They would just buy the rights to it. And actually, it started out as a possible TV sitcom that never quite happened. BBC, then ITV. That's showbiz, I'm afraid. You get very close, and then No Cigar. But fortunately, it came back to radio, and I think TV's loss is radio's gain. We'll find out Shane's view of it very shortly in a concise, headliney way. I am slightly, forgive me, bending the rules on this occasion. Normally we have 3 audio clips. This time there are 3 main setups of this sitcom, and I wanted you to have a flavour of each of those. One being in the office, one being in the prison, which we will start with shortly, and one being a couple of guys and a sort of, not quite a ménage à trois, but there is a tension there, which we'll get to in a while. And then I thought once I'd chosen some clips there, I wasn't giving you a sense of how the story moves on. So permit me to squeeze in a 4th clip a little later on, which will give you a little flavour, and it also throws in another wonderful character.
Disgusting.
Played by
disgusting.
Played by Nina Conti. What? Me breaking the rules? Well, it's another reason to get angry. Just give me some of your rage on Twitter.
Sorry, I think it was in there.
No,
I didn't.
That's almost face to face.
The ITV version. I was just reading about the trying to put it on TV back in 2002. Starred Julia Sawalha, didn't it? Which I can see her in the role. Actually, I can see her. She looks like a young social worker would look, wouldn't she? Don't you think? She with her curly hair and
with her wild
glasses,
hair, yes,
and Mother Earth style. With a what are those sandals called? Those Birkenstocks, is it, or a Birkenstock?
Are they
Birkenhergens?
Put your feet in stocks.
Flip flops on.
I thought you meant Crocs, which rhymes with stocks. Anyway, high time for the first clip. So Clare, our social worker, has gone to a prison, and things have gone slightly awry as she is telling her colleague back in the office, Libby. So we hear Clare talking to Libby over the phone from the prison, explaining what exactly has gone wrong.
I'm stuck in the middle of a prison riot, but I just wanted to call and let you know categorically that it isn't my fault, okay? No matter what people may say, and furthermore, I repeat, I am not their leader.
Sorry to interrupt, Clare, but I thought you'd like to know that all the barricades are in place and we secured the wing.
Oh, really? That was jolly prompt. Well done.
Clare says well done.
Hi, Libby. Libby, are you still there? Yeah, well, I know it might sound like I'm their leader, but really I'm not.
Clare, 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 Clare.
There's just been a tiny bit of a misunderstanding. I don't know how it happened, although, as you know, I am effortlessly charismatic, so that may have been a factor. The truth is, I just pointed out to the inmates a couple of unfair aspects of prison life, and I then helped them to start a fire with some sticks, which I learnt from the woodcraft folk. Hold on a second, Libby. What's that? The girls they just want to lift me up on their shoulders and parade me around like a goddess.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, I'm on their shoulder. Bony. Sorry, what's that, Libby? Oh, the signal's better. Oh, who'd have thought
that? I got visions of you again with your BBC CD sound effects. The other thing that ruined that whole scene for me is when she goes, "Oh, they just want me to put me up on her shoulders." Oops, here I go. I'm on their shoulders now, and it's like radio for beginners in a sense. I got that a lot of the way through it, and I have done previously when I've listened to it. But do you want my headline anyway? I should give him a headline.
Yeah, so just to interpret that remark just before your headline, you think overwritten then?
No,
to overcompensated for not having pictures?
Yeah, is it over? I don't know if it's overwriting or overacting. I'm not sure how I feel. No, it must be right. It's written. It's on the page, isn't it? So it must be overwriting. Yeah, there are other examples which I'll come to, I'm sure, as we go through, where I think, okay. Oh no, why did you do that?
Anyway, yeah, high time for your headline.
Mine
please.
is No Care for Clare.
Oh.
Do you know what I have tried? My brother really likes this. Thinks it's really good, and he keeps saying to me, "Oh," and every time I speak to him about it, and he mentions it, and I think, "Oh, I'll give it another." I actually own 6 series of this.
You went to that
in my collection, yeah. I think I might have recorded them off the radio. I don't know, but either way, I've got 6 series of this, and I keep dipping in, and I keep going, I must give it. I must try. Maybe I'm being long before the Comedy Slab podcast, and I just can't do with it. And cast fantastic. So it must be the writing, mustn't it? It's the only thing I can, or the acting, I suppose. I mean, we've had where we've liked the cast before and didn't think they'd turn in great performances, but yeah, I just can't. I can't get on with it. I mean, how it's lasted 12 series, I'm gobsmacked, really. But you're a big fan, aren't you? You were a massive fan.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say massive fan, because I mean, look, here's the paradox. You've got many more recordings than I have. I mean, if I kept recordings like you, I might have 1 or 2 of these, but I
you can have mine if you want them.
Did you say 6 series, not just 6
series?
episodes?
I've got, yeah. I ended up with 6 because I kept like.
You've seriously tried, haven't you? I'll give you that.
Like when series 1 was on, and I thought, I recorded it, or I don't know if I bought it actually. I didn't downloaded it. I think I might have been in a bit of a downloading from iTunes or something phase at the time, But whatever, and so I ended up with series 1, and I listened to a couple of episodes, and just it drove me away every time I went to it. I found that I got driven away by it, and for lots of reasons. I mean, there's an undercurrent that I don't like, but then when I hear what comes out of the speakers, I kind of it's a bit like nails down a blackboard for me for many reasons.
Well, the very thing you don't particularly like, or you think might be a big part of the problem, the writing, is the very thing I love. Can I lead into the second clip? Because there is this lovely, in my view, lovely subplot. It's only going to wind you up probably, whereby one of the characters, she's come, just to set the scene, she is a fellow social worker. We first hear of her in the office talking, this is Joni I'm talking about, and she in turn has been talking to Libby in the office.
Sorry, not because she's a brummie, but I have to say she's my favourite character. But I do good. Like her, and I thought this plot line was great, but I thought she was really good, and I thought the writing for her was really good as well.
Well, that's something.
So it wasn't.
Thereby proving we never entirely write off.
No,
shows.
and this is just how I feel. It's no good going. Oh yeah, I thought it was great because I want to sound PC and write on or whatever, or I'm trying to impress the writer's mother or whatever it is. You can only say but Joan is she really? I mean, maybe. I have a problem. I've said this to you. Sorry, I've interrupted you wildly here. So I've got this thing about characters that I can't that I don't like, or I can't empathise with, or that I don't feel are realistic. But I don't know if it's because she's sounding familiar, and I think maybe I might have met her in a past life in Birmingham.
And liked her. Shockingly, someone you like.
Yeah, I did. I quite like. Anyway, people are here, and sorry, I interrupted you. Go on.
That's all right. So Joni has this thing whereby she's come back off being mentally ill. Because the show doesn't beat about the bush, so it does say, Libby says, welcome back, and then Joni's making the claim, I've never been better, my mental health's never been better. Cut to her thinking, there is just one thing, one slight problem, I think I might be in a play. So that's the first introduction of it. This, I think, is the second time we come back to Joni, and this gives such... it could be done very badly. I think it's done really well, where I think the writers are having an absolute ball, running rings around us, but making us laugh at them running rings around us. So we'll find out what Shane makes of it after we hear the clip. Here's Joni.
Sometimes I think it's a comedy. But if it were a comedy, surely there would be more laughs. What would? The play we're in.
Libby, you better turn on the TV. Give me the remote control.
TV? There's never been a TV in here before.
It's a much overused and some may say cheap dramatic device.
Yeah. Right, Joan. And next you'll be saying that the TV will go straight to the right channel covering exactly the right story.
And breaking news from Sparrowhawk's women's prison, where reports are reaching us of a serious disturbance.
There, what did I tell you?
Hey, will you two pipe down? I'm trying to watch this.
I'll fetch the popcorn.
It kind of, it reeled me in at that point, and I'm thinking, oh, actually, no, I could be okay with this after all. And what was the matter with me for the other 11 series? Why I didn't like it and all the rest of it. But then, ironically, it's almost, and I know it's poking fun at itself, but it's poking fun at itself for all the things that I kind of have an issue with about it. You know, like the you have to write. Oh, and the girls are picking me up now. There was one line in there. I don't know if you've got this in one of your clips where one guy says to the other, and I can't remember the name of the two people.
Simon and Brian. Brian is Claire's husband.
Yeah, I think he walks in and he goes, "Hello, Simon. Hello, Brian. It's Simon." And they stood face to face, and I'm thinking, well, he can see that you are. It's full of that kind of writing where you think, why have you written that? Why would you do that? It's like very old school comedy writing, don't you think? Do you am I being unfair? Do you see any of that in it or not?
It hadn't troubled me remotely. I mean, I can see the arguments you're making there. But going back to being lifted up on the shoulders, it didn't worry me at all. I can see the argument you're making.
Right.
Maybe I'm a bit slow. Maybe I need these handrails.
I do think it's a bit like red car syndrome, isn't it? Or if you hear a noise, you can't unhear it. It's like if you buy a red car, you see red cars all the while because it's on you. And I do suffer from that when I listen to it. And, I do kind of think I'm hearing that because it's pronounced now, and so I'm hearing it kind of thing. And I do want, and all the while, all this is going. Perhaps that's why I don't get the chance to listen to the show because all this is going through my head, and I'm thinking, well, am I being unfair, really? Because it's like the same comic devices are used over and over again, and like whether you think they're talking about one thing and they're actually talking about something else. I think I just picked three at random. When they're playing ping pong, you thought they were talking about something else. And they were talking about pizza delivery. You thought they were talking about something else, and then you thought she was talking to a con, and she wasn't actually talking to a con. And it's that same comic device all the while, and I kind of think, oh, that's the same gag again.
Isn't that's a staple of comedy, though, isn't it? I'm not saying every joke has to have that, but we could probably go through and find some comedies you do actually like where that is a device used.
I can't find the quote, and I'm sure it was Bob Monkhouse, and maybe it wasn't, and that's why I can't find it. But I've been on an eternal search for somebody who said there are only 3 jokes.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from originally. I've heard there are only 6. Okay. I only know about 1. But yes, it means, of course, 6 or 3 categories of jokes.
Yeah, like misunderstanding or whatever. Yeah, and once you see that, you can't then unsee it. It's it's like the first time you go into a radio studio, you never hear radio in the same way again. I told you before, didn't I? I went to watch the Archers record, and that finished it for me. I could never listen to it again. Yeah. So there is that to it, but I don't know what is it that attracts you to it that. I mean, you obviously must like the characters. I mean, I don't really like any of the characters, particularly the way that they portray men. I think it's really sexist, and I think it's awful.
Right. Well, it is, of course, written by 2 men. I didn't mention the other writer, David Ramsden, who, as far as I can see, this has virtually been his life, hasn't it? I know there are 12 series. I saw him on IMDb. He's done only 3 or 4 acting roles. Well, certainly in film or TV. And there's 3 years between his first 2 jobs. But of course, that's not necessarily unusual for acting. What's unusual is actually getting a gig in a film. We tend to forget there are many, many actors who don't even get that far, just as there are bands who release loads of singles and not one gets in the top 100 even. That's the norm.
Yeah.
To try and answer that question before we move on, I suppose I just do like all the characters. I'm sucked into the world. I totally believe it. And see, I'm sure you're not missing the fact, because I did think, oh, well, a Guardian reading social worker as a central character for Shane, that could be a massive turn-off, and also coming from a cartoon strip from The Guardian. But the point is, it's sending up everything The Guardian holds dear. She is smug. No, I mean, but this is, it cuts both ways, doesn't it? This could be the very reason you can't like her. But I like the fact we're allowed to laugh at how smug she is and how self-deluded Clare is. She thinks she's so right on, and she's just creating more havoc.
I've never been convinced with Sally Phillips in the lead either. Now, I love Sally. I think she's fabulous and she's done some brilliant work. And I don't think it's anything to do with her per se. But I never felt that was great casting. I don't know. Now, Julia Sawalha in the TV version, I kind of get that, and she's got the look and the rest of it. And really, for it to work in radio, you've got to have the voice, haven't you? And I don't think Sally Phillips. I think because I'll tell you what it is. It's how jarring the cartoon is of Clare as this kind of cropped hair. I always wonder why it was a bloke, because I thought it was a bloke that was in the artwork for the
right.
Yeah, for the because I didn't know it was a cartoon. You see, and I thought, well, is that Brian then? Is that must be Brian at the front there? Why is he? But then I realised that that's supposed to be that's Clare in the cartoon. I mean, if you then put that as an image and then went to the opposite end of the spectrum, you'd probably end up with Sally Phillips, wouldn't you, really, I guess?
Yes, that jars for me, but only in a sort of back-to-front way, because although, I mean, years ago I must have seen the comic strip, I didn't particularly, that is Clare in the Community, I didn't connect with it. And
right.
But, I mean, they've done fabulously out of it. For me... yeah, it's just another world. I just accept that's how it is. But yes, it's the other thing is being. I'm sounding really shallow here, but it's the colour of her hair in the cartoon is really dark, and Sally's is lighter, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've seen her for a while.
I think it's because you know Sally Phillips, and I think she has got a reasonable profile. I mean, if you came to me with this as an idea and said, right, so if I was the commissioning editor. And you say, right, okay, we're going to commission. Oh, okay, casting. What we're going to do? What about the role for Clare? Joe Brand, because even on the radio, Joe Brand's voice sounds like the character more than. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I just there's something about it that has never rung true to me, right. as the whole thing, and because of all this, I think that's what it is. Because of all this going on in my head, I can't enjoy it.
There's not much room for any more processing.
No, because it's got some beautiful gags in it. I mean, there's some really, really great. Some of the writing, the gag writing, I think is terrific. I really do. I think there's some really, there's some really, really funny lines in there, isn't there? I mean, not particularly in this episode. I mean, it was okay, but in other ones I've heard before, and I thought actually, it's really laugh out loud funny, the the writing in that sense. So I mean, you can't even say, well, it's poor writing.
I would never say that, but I'm at a loss.
Who's responsible if you're doing a kind of radio drama or a radio comedy like this, and you've got lines like, "Hello, Brian, it's Simon. I'm stood by the photocopier." Who? I mean, surely it should be the producer would go, actually, can we just scrub that out? And because he wouldn't say that. Yeah,
TV, you see, would have another layer, which you can argue it either way, but because there's more money sloshing around, there are more roles. And I think you might have a separate script editor. I think we might have touched on this before.
Yeah.
Where radio's, not that it excuses really what you're saying, although it's clearly not worrying me in the same way, but I think there would be a script editor in TV and an extra process, but that can kill things dead, can't it? A script editor can over edit and take out some of the heart. I think it's got a big heart. Anyway, shall we hear a bit more? This is the third setup, so it's a classic sort of interwoven three stories going on, a bit like a Casualty episode or loads of classic drama forms. Anyway, so these are the two guys. Hi, Brian, it's Simon, or vice versa. And here is the complication that cannot quite speak its name, dare not speak its name. Brian, as I was saying, is Claire's husband. He's been at home with a dicky heart. But his heart could be broken if he finds out that Simon, his busy mate, is actually having an affair with Clare.
So, Simon, tell me about this new woman you're with.
I can't.
Just another notch on your bedpost, eh, mate?
Well, actually, no, this one is different. Special. It started off as just sex, but it's become more than that. When I'm with her, I'm giddy with happiness, breathless with joy. When we're apart, I'm just lost, empty, nothing. Sorry, mate, I'm babbling on here. Tea's ready. I'll just bring it through.
Oh, don't apologise, mate. She sounds great. When am I going to meet her? Blimey, Simon, how many trays were you carrying?
And again, that was like, well, you were there, you're with him. Why don't you know how many trays he's carrying?
I think that's called comedic license, and you know it.
But it was to me, it was a good gag ruin. You know, you kind of go, oh, well, he was. You know, I don't know. There must be another way to write it so that it doesn't. It's not clunky. I think is the best way I can describe it. It's very, very clunky.
Just listening. Sorry.
Go on.
Just a thought there that might have helped it, and it would, I think, have answered your question, but it could only be done in moderation. If there's a bit more, I speak as an old sound bore, as you know, if what we call sound perspective was used a bit more, it only occurred to me listening that time through that Simon should sound a bit more distant. He's in the kitchen. I think Brian's in the lounge. So we could have had them sound more distant, and then that would have made sense. Right. Of how many trays were you carrying, because he can't see because he's in another room.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. Yeah, so maybe I misunderstood it because of the way it sounded, kind of thing. But maybe it is a script editor. I don't know. I mean, the other thing that I've got an issue with is, like I say, how sexist it is, and I've always thought that the men that they write in are always wet or stupid or cuckolds or. There was a guy that used to be in it. He's not in it anymore, I don't think. Richard Lumsden, the actor. I don't know. Do you know who I mean? He's kind of got fair curly hair.
No, not off the top of my head.
I interviewed him a few years ago because he was I think he lived in Derbyshire, and I was an admirer of his work because I'd seen him in a Steve Coogan. Remember Coogan's Run?
Yeah,
which was a set of 6. It was his first series he was ever given, I think, by the BBC. And he did a different story in each one. And the first, I think it was the first one that went out, was called, where Coogan played a character called Gareth Cheeseman. And the episode was called Dearth of a Salesman. and
I'm in already.
And Coogan's like this, this really obnoxious salesman. He's like, looks in the mirror and goes, I'm a tiger. This kind of idiot salesman from the 90s. But Richard Lumsden was in that, and that was the first time I'd ever seen him in a comedy playing this like really inoffensive, downtrodden, son of a CEO who Coogan is trying to impress, and he kind of treads all over this guy. And I just thought, what a great, and then I saw him in other stuff, what a great actor he was. And he was one of the reasons I kept going back to Clare in the Community. I think, I like Richard, I love the work that he does. But his character that he was written for, he was so wet, and all the men are. Do you ever get the sense of that? They're so wet and downtrodden and insignificant. And
well, maybe it's because I'm wet and downtrodden and insignificant. I don't notice. What do you think?
So they're aspirational to you, then? That's what you're saying.
I aspire to be as high, in terms of society, to be downtrodden. That would be progress. I found a picture of Richard Lumsden while you were talking.
Do you know who I mean?
Yeah.
Have you seen it? He's fabulous. And do you know what? He's one of the nicest guys I've ever interviewed. He was just a really smashing. In fact, we said to him, because he hadn't, he wasn't doing anything or that we wanted to talk. I said, my producer just phoned him and said, we just wondered if you'd do an interview because, one of our presenters really likes the work that you do and would like to have a chat with you. And he's going, are you sure it's me he wants to speak to? And he was like, he couldn't. Why does he want to talk to me? I haven't got a book out or anything. Or, because we wanted to do interviews where we weren't doing it because somebody was plugging their latest film or book or whatever TV show, which is normally what happens, isn't it, you see? But smashing, lovely guy.
And brother-in-law to Emma Thompson, is that right?
That's right, yeah. He's married into the Magic Roundabout dynasty, hasn't he?
Yeah, Eric Thompson being the voiceover of the original Magic Roundabout.
Yeah.
Emma's dad. Right. Okay, let's move on to the fourth and final clip, and then we'll score the show out of 5, each of us. I've got my own hunches where it's going for Shane, but we'll have to see.
I'll give it 6.
Yeah, percent. Yeah. So, and in the process, we meet. It is Nina Conti, isn't it? Sorry,
yeah, I mean, again, I said to you, I'd seen her in other stuff, and because it's Tom's girl, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, I'm really good at picking out voices, but again, I wouldn't have. Sarah Tom is somebody that I recognise the name who plays Jean the Brummie.
Joan,
Joan the Brummie, but I looked her up, but I couldn't see where I'd know her from, but the name sounds familiar from other stuff. It might be radio stuff she's done. I don't know, but Nina Conti is in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's hear her now. This is so we're back in the prison, and this is Nina Conti's character introducing herself to the Clare of the title.
I beg your pardon, but I do not believe we have been introduced properly. I am the Queen Pin, or less formally to my friends, Queen Pin. No definite article. Small point, but significant.
Let me do a Queenie.
Let me at her.
Roxy, Razors, Fleagle, Bingo, Snorky, Drooper, stand down. Nobody gets torn to shreds until I say so. I do apologise, the girls are a bit frisky. And who, may I ask, are you?
This is Clare. This riot is all down to her. She's our leader.
Yeah! Leader, are you?
Me? Well, I mean, to be honest, I've never been fully comfortable with the whole hierarchical trip. I mean, aren't each of us a leader in our own way? If you look at urban Spanish anarcho-syndicalism of the mid-1930s.
Oi, don't you come all urban Spanish anarchic syndicalist with me, girl. Let me explain how things work around here. This is my prison. This is my wing. Nothing goes in or out of this wing without me knowing. In fact, nothing goes in or out of anybody's bottom before anybody goes in or out of this wing without me knowing. Capiche? Si.
Nice nod to the banana splits there. Did you pick that up?
No, I didn't.
Bingo, Fleagle, Snorky.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Those are the names of the bananas. That was my Saturday mornings all over again. That was.
Oh, well, you must have enjoyed that bit at least.
Yeah, I did. Quite classist as well, isn't it? The assumption that everybody in prison talks with a working class Cockney accent, which is quite interesting.
There is that
for a kind of right-on writers. Do you think?
Well, I was thinking not quite the opposite, because no, I'm not arguing against that point. That is true. But it's also true to say that I think if you dig a bit, it's actually gently subversive about Clare, because actually my sense is what's happened to her happens to a lot of people, which is if you're posh, you rise rather more quickly than other people. And that doesn't mean you're necessarily any more able than them. So in that sense, it is going against the tide, I would argue, of what you're saying. But I take the point about prison and working class accents.
I was just, when I looked up the series and what people had said about it, I mean, it has. People who like it love it, don't they? I mean, there's no question about it. The people who, if you're a Clare in the Community fan, you are big styly a fan. I mean, there's no question about that. But I was just reading the entry on Wikipedia and was absolutely horrified. It said, I mean, this is the premise of it. She's a social worker with all the right jargon who likes to sort out other people's problems whilst ignoring her own. She's white, middle class and heterosexual, but doesn't like to be reminded of it. And I just thought, what an awful thing to say. Can you imagine if it was the roles were reversed and said, she's a black lesbian and doesn't like to be reminded of it? You'd go, oh no, that's sort of how could you write something like that? How could that be the premise of what you're writing? And
that is part of the joke, though, isn't it? That she kind of wishes she was. She'd be more comfortable, I think, being black and lesbian, for instance.
Right, but having jokes got to be funny. To me, it's just awful. It's just if I ever met somebody who said that, I'd just say, you need therapy if that's how you feel about yourself. If that's how you feel about your race or your sexuality, that's awful.
But central characters in comedies of all things, they do need therapy. That, again, is the joke.
Right.
I mean, Basil Fawlty, I think John Cleese was in therapy and his psychiatrist was actually in the audience for the first show, which must have been quite a head-mangling thing. But Basil Fawlty is not well-adjusted and beautifully calm and, centred and all of that.
No, I just think as a premise, personally, I just find that abhorrent. I really do. But, that's...
But I can't think of anything now off the top of my head, but there are probably shows where there's a premise where you shouldn't like it, but you end up liking it because of what they've done with it. And
right.
I don't know how productive it is to go down that route, but...
No. I think, again, isn't it a visceral thing as well? Don't you think it's kind of like, you either... I feel like that, you don't.
We're both anchoring in different directions, aren't we? You've decided you don't like it. I've decided I like it, and we go along that line.
Yeah, I'm more. I was going to say I'm more trying to give reasons why I don't like it. But yeah, I mean, you're right in the sense that it's the stance that I'm coming from. But I just kind of think that it is you either feel like in the past you've said things and you said, oh, I didn't like the character because I felt this, and I interpreted it completely the polar opposite. And went, oh no, I felt, but so that is the personal thing taking over. That's how it hits you and stays with it. But yeah, I do. I just thought, God, that's awful. Although there was what was the line that really made me laugh? And I thought that's just recycled, but it was still a good game.
You still laughed.
Yeah, it was. Oh, I know what it was. It's Joan. Is it Joni? The Brummie, yeah, and somebody said, she said, I think I'm in a plane. I said, how long have you had this feeling? She said, but since series 8.
And that is the kind of in-joke because we know we're listening to series 12. I thought that whole subplot was beautiful, and in fact, she refers to a plot B at one point, and you wouldn't think you could get a laugh out of that.
No, but that's just an old joke, isn't it? That's the old doctor joke. Doctor, I think I'm a dog. He said, how long you felt like this? It said ever since I was a puppy.
Yeah, it's beautifully reworked.
Yeah, it did. It did make me laugh. That one. That was my laugh out loud moment.
That gives me some hope that you might find it in your heart to like other parts of it eventually.
I've got enough to go at it, haven't I? I can't believe, like I say, 12 series. I can't believe that. I mean, it's like the last of the summer wine of radio, isn't it?
And did you spot? I should have mentioned earlier.
Yes,
your lover. Playing Libby.
Why do you keep saying that? I don't.
Because there was a phase you went through. Listeners who've been with us for a long time or have backtracked into our archive, which remains available on Spreaker and elsewhere, will know that you were very fond of her show. There's no shame in it.
No, but you make it sound like it's sexual or something or what. I just liked the show. This was episode 10 of the podcast. In case you're.
See, he can even remember. He didn't even have to look at that to.
I did. I wrote it down in my notes because I knew you'd mention it.
They can't see that.
But yeah, you keep going, or your girlfriend, or your mate, or your light said, "What are you on about?" It reminded me of when I was working in radio in Derby, I think it was, and
where we met, darling.
I'd said to my producer. So I said to my producer, I'd said something about, I'd watched a program with Sara Beanie in, and I said, I'd really like her. I think when she was doing doing up the houses kind of thing. I said, I really like her because she gets stuck in and, whatever kind of thing. And that's all I can remember saying. Anyway, this got misconstrued and translated into that I really thought she was fantastic and I really fancied her, which I don't. I've got to be honest with you. Lovely lady as she is. Which would have been bad enough, but then they got her on the show. And they told her that I fancied her.
Yeah, but if... okay.
And I
she
was
might have taken that
married.
with a pinch of salt.
Did
it get back to Mrs. Shane?
Well, she knows I didn't fancy her. Do you know what I mean? So, so then we had to have this conversation on air where I'm like going, "Oh, hello, you're right," you know. And
do you have to be ultra frosty with her?
Yeah, I don't know what. Well, no, she wasn't. I don't think she's married as well, so I don't think she was expecting anything from me. To be quite fair, but it was just a weird thing. Because, and it's just got, you think you can rack your brains, think, what did I say for him to make him think that? Funny, isn't it?
Anyway, well, the Australian Trilogy, I see, is still on BBC Sounds with Sarah Kendall. And as I was just going to backtrack. And I was biting my tongue, not going to say Shane's bird. But anyway, I've seen recently, because I've actually linked a mate to it, so I know it's up there as we speak. Anyway, surely it is high time to wrap and give our scores on the doors.
Okay, do you want mine first?
I'm telling you, it could be even worse than 2. You might even be going for a 1.5 the way to. I'm going to guess 2 and hope it is no lower.
I that is exactly what I was going to give it. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Is because it didn't work for me. I realise that it has enough about it that a lot of people like it, and it wasn't. I didn't find it, apart from the casual sexism against men, and the classism, and the terrible base on which it's all founded. Apart from those 3 things, I think it tries to do no harm.
Unlike you in critiquing it.
I don't think it comes from, that's what I think. I don't think it comes from a bad place. It's
not like Birmingham. Oh, no. Sorry, you didn't mean that.
They'll all be after you there. That'll be
I know. Sorry, folks. That was a joke. I know Shane doesn't get jokes, but I think our listeners do.
There'll be a busload of Jonies on the way down the M40 to come and sort you out, mate. So I don't think it. Like I say, I don't think it comes from a bad place. I think there are some twinkly bits in there that kind of. Yeah, I think 2 is fair as a representation of the way I feel.
Okay, and I'm going for exactly double that, so I'll be a 4.
Knew that.
4 out of 5, which makes 6 out of 10, which means more than half marks. I think that's definitely a pass. Might annoy you, but you knew I was going to be quite generous. And I particularly, as I say, I loved the subplot where she thought she was in some kind of play. And there's another gag around that, which you must enjoy. And there's a fantastic reveal, which I won't spoil. We are on Spreaker, YouTube. Shane's already referred to the latter. You can give us your comments. Just be prepared for us to quote from them on another week.
Next week's homework is something which I don't know is still, whether it's still available out on the waves of the air.
Right.
But I watched it once. It's a 2-series jobby, and they didn't make any more of it. Well, they haven't so far. I think it goes back to 2012, I think. But I watched it once, and I remember it making a big impression on me at the time. And I thought, you know what? It's something, I came across it in my, basically it sounded like I've got this long library with oak panels on it or whatever. I was going to say, I came across it in my collection the other day. As I was walking in the East Wing, wandering, reading poetry. Keats, I think it was, from a paper.
If you lean on a wall, does it spin round and become another bookshelf?
Yeah, shoddy builders. They're a nightmare. But no, I remember, and I came across, and I thought, that'd be a great one to slab, because I'd really like you to have a, get to grips with it and see what you think of it, because I think that's part of the fun, isn't it, with the comedy slab as well, is that sometimes it's stuff that we know. And I don't know whether you know any of this, and I don't know if you know one of the leading actors, Jim Moore. Do you know Jim Moore?
don't think so.
Sometimes he calls himself Vic Reeves.
Jim Moyer. Yes. With you now.
Yeah. Oh, Jim Moyer. You'd be saying Patrick Mower next. And also the comedian Chris Ramsey. I don't know. Do you know? Have you seen any of Chris Ramsey's work at all? He's a Geordie lad.
No, not unless he's got a better known pseudonym.
No, that is his name, Chris Ramsey. But it's a program called. I might actually have upset him calling him a Geordie because he might be a Teessider now after all that, which is about as bad as you can get calling a Brummie somebody from the Black Country and vice versa. But it's a program called Hebben. Did you ever come across this?
Hebben.
Hebben. HEBBURN.
No.
It's a place in the northeast.
Okay.
And I don't know whether to go. I don't know whether to go for series 1, episode 1, or series 2, episode 1. I don't know. Should we toss a coin? What do you think? I don't know.
I've just being perverse. Let's have a bit of jeopardy and go for series 2, episode 1.
I think so. I think the characters are so well drawn. I think you'll pick them up quite quickly anyway. And it's quite a good cast as well. Series 2, episode 1. Then it's the episode called Welcome Home, and it's Hebben for next week.
Right. Do you know which channel it was originally broadcast on?
It went out on BBC Two originally. In about this time of year. It was about what's the date today? It's roughly almost around today's date. It went out on the 18th of October, 2012.
Okay. Thank you. I've got no preconceptions about that. I mean, I know a reasonable amount of Vic Reeves' work, but this is one I haven't come across.
Anti-social media. Oh yeah, we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And if you want to completely miss the point and leave a comment,
give us some merriment,
slacking us off, then why not use YouTube? That seems to be the popular place to go these days, if that's your bent.
I'm going to take an evening class in becoming a social worker and with a subsidiary course in being ultra smug about it, and yet strangely ill at ease with being male, middle class, white and bald. How about you, Shane?
Me, I'm just going to go around describing quite loudly everything that I'm doing in a very unnatural way and walking up to people and going, "Hello, Fred, I'm Shane," just to see whether it actually works in real life or not. "Hello, Adrian, I'm Shane."
I couldn't think of your name for a moment. And how many trays are you carrying?